So, you might have seen the headlines lately about some stuff happening over at the Daily Wire. Specifically, that Jeremy Boring is stepping down as co-CEO.
Yeah, saw that.
And on the surface, it kind of seems like, any other regular executive transition, right? Like someone's just shifting their focus to other projects.
Yeah, just kind of moving on, focusing on other things.
Yeah, exactly. Focusing on, creative projects or whatever.
Right.
But then, you start digging a little deeper and things start to get a little more
interesting.
Textured.
Yeah.
A little more spicy.
A little more spicy. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about some stuff we've seen online, specifically from a couple of YouTube channels.
Okay.
One is called Echoes from Above.
Right.
And they were reacting to some information that was shared by Ian Carroll.
Right.
And then there's another channel called the Trent Report.
Okay.
And they also do a deep dive on Ian Carroll's reporting.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, you have Carroll's own commentary on X.
Right. And all of these sources are suggesting that there might be more to this story than meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a lot more going on behind the scenes, I think.
So today, that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We want to do a deep dive into all the speculation and all the whispers that are surrounding the Daily Wire right now.
That's good.
We're looking at claims of financial strain.
Yeah.
The suggestion that Boring's departure was not exactly voluntary, and a whole bunch of other alleged internal issues.
Yeah, let's unpack all of that.
Okay, so let's just start with Jeremy Boring's move, right?
Sure.
Like we said, the official line, and the Trent Report actually quotes the press release extensively.
Right.
They say that he's moving into an advisory role so that he can focus more on his creative work.
Okay.
Particularly the Pendragon Cycle.
Yeah.
And in the press release, he expresses pride in what they've built at the Daily Wire.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he has confidence in the new leadership under Caleb Robinson.
Okay.
And he seems very excited to pursue these entertainment ventures.
Right, very standard kind of press release stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Very boilerplate.
Yeah.
But then you have Ian Carroll.
Yeah, what does he have to...
And his narrative is very different.
Okay, how so?
So across these YouTube sources and his posts on X, Carroll is claiming that Boring did not step down willingly at all.
Interesting.
He alleges, and he emphasizes this allegedly quite a bit, that Boring was forced out.
Oh, wow.
And incredibly, he's even been barred from entering the Daily Wire office.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
So it sounds like there are two very different stories here.
Yeah, a very stark contrast.
One is a very planned and, amicable transition.
Right.
And the other is a very dramatic and potentially involuntary exit.
Yeah, and like you said, it's important to remember that Carroll is presenting these as allegations.
Right, he's saying allegedly quite a bit.
Right, allegedly. So let's say for the sake of argument that the official reason for Boring's departure is not the full story.
Okay, so then what is?
What is the alternative explanation?
All right, what's really going on here?
Well, this is where the conversation turns to some pretty significant claims about the Daily Wire's financial health.
Well, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, this is where things get interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay, so Ian Carroll's central piece of speculation that he's putting out there is that the Daily Wire could be facing bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy, wow.
That is a very serious claim.
Yeah, that's huge.
So let's look at the reasons that he's giving for this alleged financial trouble.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, according to Carroll, a major factor is the Pendragon Cycle.
Okay, right. The big fantasy project.
Right. This was envisioned as a flagship exclusive for Daily Wire Plus subscribers in 2024. It was supposed to be, a big deal.
Yeah, a big new fantasy series.
Right. It was a long-held passion project for Boring.
Makes sense.
And Carroll claims that it went substantially over its intended budget.
How much are we talking?
Reportedly by around $50 million.
$50 million over budget.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's a considerable investment.
Yeah, and that kind of highlights a big challenge in the media industry, right? You have these really ambitious, creative projects.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you have the need for fiscal responsibility.
Right, you got to balance those two.
And when you have a single miscalculation on this scale,
yeah,
it can really have a huge ripple effect across an entire organization.
It can really sink the ship.
Exactly.
And it's not just that one project.
Okay, so what else is he saying?
Carroll also points to other productions that haven't been profitable.
Like what?
Well, the Trent Report reminds us about the stalled Snow White movie starring Brett Cooper.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that.
As another example of a project that just hasn't seen the light of day.
Yeah.
And the implication there is that these costly endeavors are just not generating the expected returns.
Yeah, if you're spending all this money and not making any of it back,
that's a problem.
That's not a good sign at all.
No, and it gets worse.
Oh, no. What else?
Carroll also suggests that there was a hiring freeze and that various projects were just put on ice as far back as 2023 because they didn't have the funds.
So they were already having problems back then.
It seems that way, yeah.
It's not good.
No. And there are even unconfirmed rumors that he mentions about Boreing and Ben Shapiro allegedly using their own personal funds around that time to keep things afloat.
Wow, really?
And those amounts supposedly still haven't been reimbursed.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
So if we connect all of that to the bigger picture here, these claims really suggest a pattern of financial strain that predates Boring's departure by quite a bit.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
The alleged need for personal funds.
Right.
And the fact that they were halting projects left and right definitely points to some potential cash flow issues.
Definitely. And then there's this other claim that is really striking about the company allegedly freezing employee credit cards.
Wow. What?
Yeah. And Carroll's interpretation of this is that the Daily Wire was trying to mask deeper financial problems.
By freezing their cards.
Yeah. And they attributed it to a new accounting system. But Carroll thinks that they were just trying to cover up some bigger issues.
So that raises some questions about transparency and internal communication at the company, right?
If these allegations are true.
Yeah, because freezing employee credit cards, even with an explanation, could definitely create an atmosphere of unease if it wasn't handled properly.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got all these alleged financial difficulties.
Right.
But Carroll also paints a pretty negative picture of the internal culture at the Daily Wire as well.
Yeah, he does.
He straight up says that they have a long history of treating their employees like S.
Yeah, he does not mince words.
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, it's a very direct and strong statement.
For sure.
But then he offers some specific examples to support that claim.
Okay, what are they?
Well, the assertion that Jeremy Boring allegedly made employees refer to him as the God King is...
The God King, really?
Yeah, it's quite something.
That's pretty out there.
Yeah, and the fact that Brett Cooper reportedly used this term sarcastically upon her departure...
Oh, really?
...is presented as further evidence of this alleged culture.
Huh. So it's like one of those things where it's so normalized that people just kind of jokingly refer to it.
Right, and it's not really a joke.
Right, exactly.
And he also mentions numerous sources, both past and present employees, who supposedly didn't even accept NDA money when they left because they were so eager to share their negative experience.
Wow.
Yeah, and just to clarify for our listeners, an NDA in this context is a non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
Which is a legal contract that would prevent them from sharing confidential information.
Yeah, you sign it and you can't talk about what happened.
Right, exactly. And the fact that these individuals allegedly declined such agreements suggests a significant level of dissatisfaction.
Yeah, if they're willing to leave money on the table just to talk about how bad it was.
That says something.
Definitely.
And Carroll directly links this alleged poor treatment to Brett Cooper's departure. He says that the memes she posted when Jeremy Boring got fired was pretty much confirmation that this was a major contributing factor.
Interesting.
Yeah. It suggests a potentially strained relationship between Cooper and Boring stemming from these alleged issues.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And so on top of all of this alleged internal and financial turmoil, there are also rumors circulating about attempts to either find investors or sell the company outright.
Okay, so they were looking for a way out.
That's what it seems like, yeah. And according to Carroll, these efforts did not go particularly well.
Oh, so they weren't able to find anyone.
It seems that way, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the claim that Jeremy Boring allegedly misrepresented things to the press to generate interest in a potential sale.
So he was trying to make the company look better than it actually was.
That's the allegation, yeah.
Wow, so what kind of misrepresentations are we talking about?
Well, the specific example given is the persistent rumor that Fox News was considering acquiring the Daily Wire.
Oh, right. I remember that.
And Carroll states very definitively that this was never in the works.
It was all just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, just a tactic to attract other potential buyers. And to add another layer to that, the suggestion is that the Murdochs, who are behind Fox News, allegedly harbor a personal dislike for Jeremy Boring.
So it was never going to happen.
Right. And, you know, personal relationships can often play a significant role in these kinds of high-stakes business dealings.
Absolutely.
And then there's this rather unusual claim about an alleged attempt to trick Tim Pool into buying the Daily Wire.
Tim Pool. That's interesting.
Yeah, the supposed strategy involved presenting the company as highly profitable. And the offer was reportedly an all-stock deal.
An all-stock deal, so no cash involved.
Right. And for a company facing alleged financial trouble, an all-stock offer raises serious questions about the actual value of those shares.
Yeah, because if the company's not doing well, the stock is going to be worthless.
Exactly. And Carroll himself claims that this stock would have been essentially worthless given the alleged financial situation. And he also expresses doubt about Tim Pool having the financial resources for such a purchase, even if the stock had value.
Right. Tim Pool's doing pretty well, I'm sure.
Yeah, but maybe not that well.
Yeah, maybe not $50 million over budget on a fantasy series.
Oh, right.
So this whole situation really paints a picture of potential desperation.
Yeah, if these claims are accurate.
If they're really trying to trick someone into buying this company.
It's not a good sign.
No, it really isn't.
And then you have all this internal friction that's happening as well.
Oh, yeah. What's going on there?
Well, there's a supposed huge rift between Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boreing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I would not have expected that.
Yeah, and Carroll even mentions an unconfirmed rumor that Shapiro hired his own PR person some months ago, which is interesting because Ben Shapiro has long been a very visible figurehead for the Daily Wire.
Yeah, he's like the face of the company.
Exactly. And so a potential rift at that level of leadership could certainly have significant implications for the company's future direction and stability.
Absolutely.
And Carroll's speculation that Shapiro might have played a key role in Boring's alleged ouster adds another layer of complexity to this whole internal drama.
Yeah, it really does sound like there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, a lot of drama.
Yeah.
And then there's the situation with Brett Cooper's replacement, Reagan Conrad.
Right. What's going on with her?
Well, Carroll doesn't mince words here.
Okay.
He states very emphatically that Conrad is beyond unprofitable.
Ouch.
And that the company is losing a crap ton of money with her.
Wow.
Yeah. He even brings up the old channel and suggests that if private equity becomes involved, Conrad's position would be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And that they should either shut down the channel or find a new, more talented host.
Gotcha.
Because he characterizes her as like a backstabbing producer rather than a genuine content creator. And this really highlights the constant pressure that media companies face to have talent that connects with audiences and generates revenue.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if a key figure's departure leads to a noticeable decline in performance from their replacement,
right,
it can certainly exacerbate existing financial pressures.
Especially if they were already having financial problems.
Exactly.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, one thing after another. And then there's this rather odd detail about the Daily Wire allegedly taking control of Brett Cooper's TikTok account.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and attempting to access her private messages.
What?
Because they suspected that she had been leaking information to Carroll.
Oh, wow. That's pretty paranoid.
Yeah, and that kind of action, if true, could suggest a significant level of paranoia and mistrust within the organization.
Yeah, if you're going through your former employees' private messages, that's
not a good sign.
No, not at all.
And accessing a former employee's private communications also raises some serious ethical and potentially legal questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then lastly, regarding all the internal unease.
Okay.
Carroll mentions that Jordan and Michaela Peterson are apparently really weirded out by the current situation and that their team isn't particularly happy, especially concerning ongoing contract renegotiation.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the Petersons are very significant figures within the Daily Wire's talent roster.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, and so any uncertainty or dissatisfaction on their part could be another indicator of broader instability within the organization.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's just revisit the Pendragon Cycle for a moment.
Okay.
Remember, this was intended to be a major exclusive offering for Daily Wire Plus subscribers in 2024.
Right.
It was filmed in Italy. It was supposed to be their big foray into the fantasy entertainment genre.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a big deal.
A huge deal. But as the Trent report points out, there has been a notable lack of updates regarding its release. And so this lack of news, combined with the alleged $50 million in overspending, certainly raises questions about the project's vibe.
Yeah, are they even going to finish it?
And about its contribution to the alleged financial difficulties.
Right, because a major project failing to launch after such a substantial investment can have a really serious negative impact on a company's financial health.
It can be devastating.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you put all of this together,
right,
what are the bigger implications here, at least from Ian Carroll's perspective?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
Well, he seems to believe that this situation reflects a broader shift in the media.
Okay, interesting.
And what's fascinating here is Carroll's commentary on the Daily Wire, allegedly embodying an inauthentic bad story. And he argues that contemporary audiences place a high value on authenticity over what they perceive as manufactured content.
Right, they can tell when something's fake.
Right, and he suggests that the traditional model of simply creating content and expecting viewership is no longer sustainable.
You have to be real.
You have to be real, and you have to connect with your audience on a genuine level.
And people can smell a phony a mile away.
Exactly. And he says that, in his view, people subscribe to stories to individuals and to authenticity.
So it's not just about the content. It's about the people who are making it. It's about their personalities and their values.
Right.
And whether or not they seem genuine.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And he even poses a rather thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Do we even want the Daily Wire to be saved? And he raises the possibility that prominent individuals like Matt Walsh and Jordan Kitterson might be better positioned to thrive independently outside of a larger organizational structure.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this perspective encourages us to consider the actual value proposition of these larger media organizations versus the potential for individual creators to flourish on their own in today's media environment.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It challenges the automatic assumption that the continued existence of a particular platform is necessarily in the best interest of its talent or their audience. So it really gets you thinking.
It does.
Okay, so to bring it all together for you, our listener.
Okay, let's recap.
We started by acknowledging the official news of Jeremy Boring stepping down as co-CEO of the Daily Wire.
Right.
To concentrate on his creative pursuits.
Right, focusing on that Pendragon Cycle.
Yeah, but then we delved into a series of allegations and rumors primarily sourced from Ian Carroll's reporting, which paint a significant picture.
Much more dramatic.
Much more dramatic, yeah. And we've touched on claims of potential bankruptcy due to alleged overspending on projects like the Pendragon Cycle and other productions.
At $50 million over budget.
Yeah, and a reported hiring freeze.
Right.
And even suggestions that the company's founders had to use their own funds to support operations.
Yikes.
We also discussed accusations of a negative internal culture.
Yeah, the God King stuff.
Yeah, the alleged forced departure of Jeremy Boring and rumors of unsuccessful attempts to sell the company or secure investment.
Right.
Including the alleged scenarios involving Fox News and Tim Pool.
Right, a lot of drama.
And finally, we consider the broader implications, including the idea of a changing media landscape that prioritizes authenticity.
Right.
And the question of whether the Daily Wire's current structure is still the most effective model for its talent and audience.
Yeah, some really big questions there.
Yeah, so we're left with two very different accounts.
Right.
The official narrative of a planned transition.
Right.
And the version presented by Carroll sources, which suggests financial distress and internal turmoil.
Yeah, so which one is true?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
It is.
And this raises an important question for you to ponder.
Yeah, what should we be thinking about?
Considering these alleged issues and the evolving media landscape, what does the future hold for organizations like the Daily Wire? And perhaps more broadly, what does this situation, regardless of its ultimate accuracy, reveal about the complex dynamics between media platforms, the talent they feature, and the audiences they aim to reach?
Yeah, it's a really complicated issue.
It definitely makes you consider the critical role of authenticity and the potential impact of a company's internal environment and financial stability on its long-term viability.
Absolutely.
So that's something to think about.
It is food for thought, for sure.
All right, well, that's our show for today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was a good one.
See ya.
See you later.